You know, this setup reminds me of that classic Paul Simon video. You can call me Al. He sat awkwardly while Chevy Chase lip synced the whole song. It was absurd and funny and unforgettable. And here I am sitting in the ocean doing my own version. Because sometimes immigration rules feel just as absurd. You think you're sitting comfortably, but suddenly the tide comes in and you're swept into a whole new reality. You could call me Island Punk. I have a retirement visa in Mauritius. It's a small island country in the Indian Ocean. It's off the coast of Madagascar, way off the coast of Madagascar. Today, I want to talk about what really happens if you go to another country in the Southern Hemisphere on a tourist visa and overstay. Spoiler, it's not as funny as a Paul Simon video. Fines, bans, and deportation. These are the waves you don't want crashing into your chair. And if you're thinking about retiring abroad, I'm going to share what countries expect from you. Age requirements, income, insurance, and how long you can stay without worrying about the tide pulling you back out. And last, I'm going to go over crime index and safety index data tables. I've left links to the data and additional data-driven resources and lifestyle-oriented materials for you. I am collecting no fees and I have no one sponsoring this channel. So please like and subscribe to help me grow this channel. So when I talk about the Southern Hemisphere, I am looking at 10 countries in particular. I've narrowed it down, and those 10 top Southern Hemisphere destinations I'm referring to are Australia with major hubs, strong healthcare, structured visas, New Zealand with a high quality of life, clear immigration processes, South Africa with diverse cities and established expat communities, Mauritius, my home, retirement-friendly, stable services in English and French, Namibia, lower density population and a growing expat interest, Botswana, stable and nature-centric living, Brazil with big cities, cultural richness, and varied visa routines or routes, Chile, strong institutions and access to the Pacific. Argentina, affordable urban life with a rich culture. And Uruguay, stable, progressive, coastal living. These are practical starting points for anyone considering the Southern Hemisphere as a place to immigrate or retire. Specific visa rules vary by nationality and change frequently, so I'm not going to give them to you today. It would be way too long of a video, and it would change in a month, so it's not helpful to do that. Tourist visa overstays, let's start with that. What typically happens? The immediate consequences for a tourist visa overstay is typically fine, deportation, and an entry ban with a record in the immigration database. Even a single day over can trigger penalties and future visa refusals. Severity scales with length and prior history. So how long over you stayed, and do you have a history of staying over? How do they know? Well, you cannot sign a rental agreement, get cell phone service, open a bank account, pay utilities, any of those things without showing your visa permit. A tourist visa in Mauritius will not allow any of these services or purchases. In order to get a rental, open a bank account, or get cell phone service, I have to have a residence permit. When I say cell phone service, I mean long-term cell phone service, not just like an e-card. I had to have a residence permit, such as a retirement permit, which is what I have. But they also have a work visa and a nomad visa. Overstaying a tourist visa impacts your future travel. Automatic refusals for new visas or travel authorizations. And it also flags screening criteria where they stop and check in with you. So the direct answer is overstaying is treated as a legal violation, not a minor delay. Expect fines and removal and potential bans with a digital footprint that follows you around. All right, so general tourist visa requirements, the stay is very generous. Here in Mauritius, it's 90 days, and a lot of places are 90 days, with the minimum of being 30 days. That's a long time for a tourist. It's sometimes extendable also, but check before you leave. The core documents that you need are a passport, a proof of where you're going next, or a exit ticket. So I had to have an exit ticket, even though I could prove that I was in the process of getting a retirement visa. I still had to have an exit ticket. And because it's so far and the return ticket to the United States was so expensive, I chose to get a ticket to Madagascar, which is much less expensive and close by. And then I used it as an excursion day. Actually, it was a week. I used it and did a week excursion to Madagascar, which was amazing. All right, so requirements are going to also ask you where you are staying, and they're going to want to see that you have sufficient funds to use while you are there. So South America it's really important to note that it is not uniform. What works in one country may fail in another country. So just don't wait till you get to the border to know what the requirement is. Check way ahead of time with the route that you're driving or with the airline. Retirement visas. Let's go ahead and talk about that. So general requirement for a retirement visa is usually 50 or above age. Sometimes it's lower. I saw a couple places that it was 45. So the retirement visa targets people that have a passive income rather than working online, although I obviously work online. The income requirements are anywhere from $700 to $2,500 US dollars, depending on the country that you're looking at and the program. And those funds can come from pensions, investments, and savings or savings accounts. They require health insurance, mandatory in most retirement visa countries, and that can be public or private health insurance coverage. You have to have a clean criminal history profile. They asked me for a clean criminal history from the FBI, and it had to be stamped and be official, and it had to be recent. I also had to have a clean driving record because I wanted to change my US driver's license to a Mauritius driver's license so that I could apply for a scooter license because I didn't have a motorcycle license in the US driver's license. But in the United States, that's a special deal. And so I have to go through a few hoops to get that. So the fees and the duration, application fees are going to vary widely. Mine was 10,000 rupees, but it's for 10 years. My retirement visa is for 10 years. And that did not include the agency that I paid to help me get through the whole process. A lot of countries, the initial residence retirement term is 1 or 2 years and is renewable. And they offer pathways to a permanent residency over time. So every program, every country is going to have a different program. And those programs change with administrative changes usually. So countries that have clear established rules, accept passive income, and have affordable healthcare are really considered the most accessible for retirees seeking long-term stability. So that's going to be the standard that you're going to want to go for if you're looking for retirement. So the direct answer is 50 plus years of age, proof of a steady income, health insurance that you can buy abroad, or online or at home, a clean criminal history record, money to pay their fees, and with the potential of renewing it at some point or becoming a resident. Yes, visa overstays can sometimes lead to jail in foreign countries. So this is really rare. Most countries impose fines, deportation, and entry bans rather than imprisonment. There is no global percentage available, but in the US and many other countries, overstays are treated as a civil violation, not a crime, unless it's combined with a fraud, so lying, or repeated violations, or criminal act 2 crime data comparison. Going to talk about those 10 countries where they are. The higher the crime index, the worse. The lower the safety index, the worse. So we want a low crime, high safety. And I'm going to put this data up so that you can see and link it below. So Australia shows a moderate crime index around 45 to 50. Safety sits around 55. The crime patterns vary. This is from 2025. Crime patterns vary by city. Property crime and assaults exist, but overall things remain stable in Australia. In New Zealand recorded 215 criminal proceedings per 10,000 residents, down from 229 in 2024. Violent crime decreased by 3.2%, and property crime rose slightly by 1.8%. Auckland continues to have the highest crime volume. South Africa is still facing serious crime challenges. The crime index is 74 points. That is really high, with a safety index of just 25.3. That is really low. The murder rate is staggering. 64 murders per day, though some violent crimes did decline in 2025. Mauritius, my home, looks relatively safe, with a crime index of 40 to 45 and a safety index near 60. Violent crime is very low, but petty theft in tourist areas is sometimes something that you have to watch out for. So Namibia, the crime index is 63.5 and the safety is 36 points. So rising crime is linked to unemployment and corruption, and it is driving higher crime rates overall. Botswana is considered safe with a crime index of 40 to 45 and a strong safety index of 77. So Botswana is really looking good, a lot like Mauritius. Most crime in Botswana is theft, and violent crime is relatively rare. In Brazil, the crime index is pretty high, 64.2, and safety is really low, 35. Urban crime is high, and its crime is tied to drug trafficking, and homicide rates remain among the highest in South America. Chile shows a crime index of 60.5 and safety at 39 points. People feel increasingly insecure with property crime rising, though homicide rates remain low. Argentina crime index is 63.4 and safety is 36.6, so it is also inversely bad. Should be a low crime index and a high safety index. So it's the opposite of what you would want it to be. It's ranked the third safest in Latin America overall, but urban centers still struggle with theft and robbery. And Uruguay is a bright spot. Crime dropped in 2025 with robberies down 15% and thefts down 10%. The homicide rate is stable. The crime index is about 52.3 and the safety index around 47 points. So the insights for expats is as follows. The highest risk countries are South Africa, Brazil, Namibia, and Argentina. Violent crime and thefts are all major concerns. Moderate risk is Chile, Australia, where crime exists, but institutions and policing help mitigate those risks. And lower risks is New Zealand, Mauritius, Botswana, and Uruguay, generally all considered safe, though petty theft and property crime still occur. The trends are Uruguay and New Zealand improving and Namibia and Chile declining. So, whether you're traveling, relocating, or just curious, these insights give a snapshot of safety across the regions in the southern hemisphere from 2025. And I will put a link to the PDF below. So here are some expat and retirement index websites that are extremely helpful in making decisions about where you might want to go as an expat. First is Numio. Numio tracks the cost of living, crime, healthcare, pollution, and quality of life indices worldwide. It is very popular with expats, comparing cities and countries. International Living's annual Global Retirement Index. It publishes a yearly ranking of the best countries for retirement based on affordability, healthcare, climate, and ease of settling in. The Internations Expat Insider Survey is one of the largest global surveys of expats, covering happiness, safety, bureaucracy, and integration. Then there is the Global Peace Index. I think it's formerly the Institute for Economics and Peace. It ranks countries by safety and stability. It's useful for retirees concerned about security abroad. Then there is the World Population Review, Quality of Life Rankings. It provides updated rankings on quality of life, healthcare, and affordability. And finally, there is the OECD Better Life Index. It compares countries on housing, income, community, health, and life satisfaction relevant for long-term expat retirees. All right, if this information was helpful, please like and subscribe. And until next time, stay curious.